I honestly, getting on point to do this is surprisingly a little difficult. Because you gotta center yourself. You
do. You gotta be ready.
Because to some extent, this one I know I'm going to have other people intentionally watch, so I want to make sure that I'm on point.
Point. We don't know what the point is, but we want to be on the point.
Yes.
There, we're going for humor.
You want to be in the front, leading. Leading where? That doesn't matter. You just want to be first. You got to lead, then figure out where you're going.
That's us.
All right. This is another episode of Moderate Voices. We're going to be kind of discussing just some odd things because we're coming off, well, Chuck is coming off the summer vacation, so we're just going to kind of discuss some odd things. And I watched a video recently, and I was actually going to ask you, should we give the guy who did it a plug or not?
Sure. You might as well mention this. You know.
There is another YouTuber out there that goes by Thunderfoot, and he had a video about breatharianism. What?
That's a good name, Thunderfoot.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know he's English, but I have no idea where. To some extent, I don't want to become obsessive about anybody's. I am not a stalker. I don't care where you work. But that's kind of neither here nor there. But he does some nice scientific debunking videos. Anyway, he did something about a debunking a video, or not a video. He did a video debunking a philosophy called Breathianism. And I watched it. I found it relatively entertaining, but he does kind of drive his point home by going over and over again, which I think he's a professor at a university. But that does seem to be a common teaching technique, is if you don't know if your class is quite getting something, you just go over it again and again.
Yeah. More examples. The way you do this, Jason, when you're teaching, I'm a math teacher, in case you guys don't know this or not, what you do, you have 5 examples of how to do a problem. And when you think that's enough, you have 2 more. Because you have to have enough for everybody to really see how it works. So you always have to go at least one more step beyond what would probably be for everybody who's sane and normal thinking. So if he's applying his lecture of philosophy to this video, he would be. Actually, the Breathianism, when Jason brought this up to me, I thought he had said something horribly wrong.
He thought I was saying like sectarianism or...
I thought it was sectarianism. At one point, I thought it had something to do with breasts, which I was for a conversation about that, but that's okay. And so then I Googled it, because what does anyone do in today's day and age when they don't know what a word is? You Google it, crap. And apparently, it's actually like it's a Hinduish, Buddhistic practice. Aikido is actually their version of it, or Breathianism. So it has roots in spiritualism, which makes it somewhat less...
No, it kills people. So
No. It doesn't kill people. They
kill
go far.
Okay, so in other words, they're suicidal, but they're committed to it because they're going to let the universe kill them by starvation.
Okay, so for our viewers, we need to tell them what Breathianism is. It is the practice of believing that you get you don't actually need food or water to survive. You can get all the energy you need from the world around you, from the prana, as it is in the Hinduistic version of things. It's called the prana, the energy from the world. All you have to do is open yourself up to it, and you don't need to eat anything or drink anything, and it will sustain you if you are meditating in the correct fashion. And as Jason points out, lots of people are dying because, well, that doesn't really work.
I wouldn't say lots of people. And the video, even when you were looking it up, it did not imply that a lot of people were dying, but it did imply that people commit to this idea, and they commit to it in such a way that they quit eating, and a biological entity without biological sustenance dies. And they literally starve themselves to death, which at one hand, they're idiots for doing it. On the other hand, you kind of got to admire their commitment.
The interesting thing here is that I'm an avid fan of the Darwin Awards, as I'm sure Jason is as well. I have not seen anyone show up on the Darwin Awards for this, and you'd think
That
they
is
would.
true. I think they at least need to get an honorable mention.
I mean, because
they are taking themselves out of the genetic pool.
Yeah.
For believing that they can sustain themselves on spiritual energy, sustain their physical body on spiritual energy.
Yeah.
Which is, I agree with you. I think we need to find someone who has passed away due to this belief, their absolute commitment to this belief.
We need to nominate them for a Darwin Award. I think that needs to happen. So if anybody out, if whoever watches this, if you see or heard of this happening, make sure you get them nominated for a Darwin Award. And I'm assuming that everyone who watches this know what the Darwin Awards are.
Yeah, I'm going to make that assumption too. But if you just want to contact us, we will contact the Darwin Awards and nominate them. We will have to figure out how, but we will do that.
I haven't known anyone who's died in a stupid way to figure out the Darwin Award nomination. If I ever had it happen, I would have to do it. I mean, because there are some awards that them and the Razzies, the Darwin Awards and the Razzies are some of the best awards ever. Yeah. Speaking of Razzies, apparently the Dark Tower.
And hold on a second. That is Chuck's segue. I just want to mention something. No one else. Anybody else does a segue like that? We have a 50-car pile up on the interstate. Chuck does it. We're just supposed to take the 90-degree turn and keep going.
It's a great segue. I went from the Dark Awards to the Razzies, which of course are, for those people who don't know, are the awards given to the worst movies of the year.
Which I disagree with some of their nominations.
I do too, but it's a general concept. So that brings us to what possibly I'm excited for / a little worried. I have not seen The Dark Tower, but apparently it was the number one movie over the weekend.
It was the number one movie over a slow weekend, but yeah, I mean it's number one. So
so
how are the Razzies associated with The Dark Tower?
Because I'm kind of thinking it's going to win some Razzie Awards. From the description I've heard from some people, that it's not very good in some aspects. But maybe it will. Maybe it'll win them. I don't know. Maybe it'll avoid the Razzies and fall right there in the middle. Sharknado 5 is coming out like either this weekend or next weekend.
Okay.
Did you guys get the look on his face?
I don't even know what to say to that. It's like telling me the sky's turning green next week. Okay.
It's Sharknado 5.
I'm pretty certain the sky's.
What was the last Sharknado you watched, Jason?
I know I watched 2. Honestly, I don't think I've seen 3 or 4.
Sharknado 4, the May the Force be with you. Or May the Sharks. I forget what it is exactly, but it was a play on the Force. That one was pretty good. Apparently, Tara Reid has like a laser, gets some kind of like lightsaber-ish type thing to cut up the sharks, and they're on the moon with David Hasselhoff dealing with the sharks because David Hasselhoff is our superhero. Our superhero Ian Ziering's dad. He's Ian Ziering's dad, which explains a lot about how he's able to deal with things with the chainsaw. If you think about it, because he's Hasselhoff's kid. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, I'm just gonna suspend my disbelief on the explanation.
And now here's the question: if Trump had not won the election, do you think he would have been in Sharknado 5 as a cameo?
No.
Are you sure? I'm thinking he's right. I mean, some pretty high-profile people are cameoing in the Sharknadoes. So I think he might have made a cameo because why not?
Ego.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, Mark Cuban.
Yeah. Mark Cuban has a sense of humor. It's a weird sense of humor, but he has one.
Okay.
I'm not entirely certain Cuban has. Cuban does have, and he also doesn't take himself too seriously. There's a difference between this is a serious matter and thinking that everything you say is serious.
Fair.
And I mean, listening to Trump, his public persona, and that's really everything we have to go off of. His public persona is he has an extremely inflated sense of self-worth.
And that's true. Now, Jason will attest to this. I went on vacation for 3 weeks, and I came back from vacation. And
I will attest. Chuck went on vacation.
And at the end of my 3-week vacation, Of course, stuff happened at our wonderful at the White House. People got hired. People got fired. People got fired. People got hired.
Hey,
There was
you
a
were
lot of
on
hiring and
vacation
firing.
longer than Scaramucci had a job.
That's true. I was on vacation longer than he had a job because he got hired while I was on vacation, and when I got back, right after that, he got fired. So, yeah, there was a lot that goes on. And my call to him was like, "So, could you fill me in?" And Jason, I think, was like, "No, there was too much. You need to read up. There was just too much going on." Like, what?
There's no way to keep track of everything at this. I mean, and when the Game of Thrones originally came out, and it was still in the book series. And Chuck had some friends that were reading it, and he's like, "Yeah, they had flow charts to keep track of all the different characters and houses and who was dying, who was at war with who." And it's like the last couple of months, that's been the White House. You need a flow chart to keep track, and who's aligned with who, because Scaramucci was an anti-Bannon person. Bannon is trying now to get somebody else hired in as the communications director. Who reports to who? Who's leaking to who? And not after a while, it is still interesting because, well, it matters.
And I personally think that Trump and his tweeting, it's at this point, it's kind of comic. There's a new tweet every day. He tweeted today. I forgot he attacked somebody about something. He just couldn't. He's on a working vacation, right, Jay? You told me it's a working vacation.
That is what he is saying. Yes.
Okay. He took time off from his working vacation to tweet about something because he's still complaining about people complaining about stuff.
He is still complaining about the Russian investigation. He's still complaining that Robert Mueller is investigating him. And at this point, that Robert Mueller is attempting to investigate his personal finances to see if they're how tied to Russia is the Trump empire. Is there enough different entities at different levels of the Trump organization that have, ties to banks, to oligarchs, to everything else over there, that even if Trump and Putin aren't colluding, the organization itself is by necessity colluding just because it has so many ties. I don't know if it is or not. No one really knows. I'm not even sure the Trump organization at this point knows.
Kellyanne Conway knows. I think she knows a lot of things.
She may know a lot of things.
Yes.
But she's not going to share any. She is not going to share any of those things with the American public.
No. She's really good at not answering the question. I give her credit for that. She should probably be the press secretary because the press secretaries look like they're under a lot of stress with the whole not answering the questions as being presented, which is okay. They're really just the mouthpiece. They're just supposed to say what the administration wants out there. So
yeah, I used to think our politicians were really bad about that. Someone asking them a question and then they answer a completely different question than was asked.
Yeah.
Our politicians don't answer a completely different question. They do answer the question asked. Well, let me rephrase that. They say words. They speak words that the words do relate to the question asked, but they also want to try to muddy the response so much that you don't know exactly what they said. I've been watching enough British politics now here recently, and they have a politician that gives the same answer no matter what question is asked.
Oh, how much is it? Did you see how much it was that the last estimate for how much to get out of for how much it's going to cost to do
for Britain to leave the EU, or as they are calling it, the Brexit. And they haven't actually discussed a figure yet because other items are a bigger priority for the European Union. And that is kind of what they're holding over Britain's, or I guess it's not Britain, it's the United Kingdom.
Well, I saw something where they had came up with a relatively recent
number. I have not seen that estimate yet. I'm not really following that because, well, we're not in the EU and we're not in Britain. But that is a major political event that is occurring in our allies. I mean, the EU is definitely an American ally, and Britain is definitely an American ally, because you watch enough different television from overseas, and you start to see how much the basic values are the same. Britain, a lot of their television shows are similar. They're a little different. They have some differences, but the themes are mostly the same. You start watching certain Middle Eastern shows, and the themes are geared towards them, and their society is different. And it is, the difference is definitely noticeable in the television and the entertainment industry.
So those who don't know, Netflix.
So anyway, did you find the number? I was just filling space till you found the number.
I know. I've been looking. You were doing a pretty good job. I cannot find what I had seen. I had just seen a number, and I forgot to. But it was not in the 60 billion euro range, but it was like maybe, but around that. I think that's one number I have seen on something I've looked at here, but nothing more than that. I don't know. I'll have to see if I can have a.
But the issue is also going to be, the nationals, the British nationals that are in Europe, the European nationals that are working and living in Britain, the dog, the animals, the different imports and exports, the tariffs, the food tariffs, all of these things are being discussed. And it's
the leaving of people. That's going to be extremely difficult.
That is the one area where Britain does have a leg to stand on as having, I wouldn't necessarily say the upper hand, but from negotiation standpoint, that is the one thing the European wants that Britain can deny them. So they've got to parlay a very thin.
I've seen some reports of people already in Britain preparing to leave because they're assuming that they're going to have their stuff. Their citizenship is going to be weird, so they're already transitioning back. An odd thing about immigration in general, again, one of my Chuck segues. So I was on vacation in Utah, and so I was watching Utah local.
90 degrees. Okay.
I was watching Utah local. You'll get it. It actually ties in. You just have to get the story to get there. So in Utah, we saw this news story on Utah local news about a British family in, I believe it was Salt Lake, and they had opened up. They had a year of running an independent little store that was making very good money. It was a nice business. Everybody in town really liked them, but they missed a deadline by like a week. Not due to their own fault, but due to miscommunication and misdirection by the immigration office. And so they had to leave. They were having to leave at the end of July. They had to leave the country because everything had been revoked, and they're being sent home, back to England. And they had just sunk basically all of their life savings into their business here in the United States. They were going to have to sell for pennies on the dollar to go back because they had to sell it before they left.
Why did they have to sell it before they left?
So they have enough money to move back. They can't run the business unless they have somebody here run it. So they were looking to try to sell it off, but the main thing for them was they were making money there in Utah. They were paying stuff off. It was one of those. This is a great family that's doing what you would like people to do in the United States, small business owner and entrepreneurship, and they had employed people within the local community, and they were having to leave because not because they didn't want to do things correctly, but they got things mixed up on dates from the your immigrant ICE basically, and they missed one thing, and so that was it. There was no recourse. So if it's weird, immigration is strange. If you're on their radar, they will get you. It's just whether they see you or not.
Immigration is very strange because the idea, personally, from what I'm thinking, why can't they do it early? Well, they can't do it early because immigration doesn't let them do it early.
Yeah,
You have to do it within the window. Me, if you're living in this, and obviously they could have done it early because they are here, they want to stay here. They would have probably been willing to do it early. Not their choice. They have to wait. But then if you wait too long,
or if you get mixed up on when to file, which is what happened. It was kind of one of those sad stories of you could always state, well, if they just done what they were supposed to do, everything would have worked out fine. But miscommunication happens.
Yes. Mistakes happen, and not all mistakes, and mistakes happen on both sides.
And that, yes.
But there is no, and sometimes there might be some leeway in ICE, but sometimes there's not. And in this current administration, there isn't going to be because they don't want to get on the radar of their bosses.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
They want to follow the letter of the rule to the T because of what's going on.
That was one of the slants. I mean, they appealed, but their appeal was denied because by the letter of the law, they were now illegal, and their visas were going to expire, and they needed to be gone. They wouldn't be able to reapply for another year or two or something like that because of how it worked out. So they were going to move home and move in with their parents because they had no money to do anything else. So it's a good thing that they're British citizens because at least they'll still have health care. They did mention that they're going back where they'll actually have health care for their kids and stuff like that. But I don't know how long it'll take them to get back on their financial feet.
If ever.
Yeah, because they basically, their business they started was looking good, so they sunk a lot of money. They sunk all their money into it, like you would want small business people to do, because they invest in their community. Not maybe all of it, but you know what I mean. Like the majority of their money was sunk into their business because that's how you make a business makes money, right? Jason's a business guy, so I'm just going with that.
Yeah, you got to spend money to make money.
But, so, we've rambled on a lot of different topics. We try to keep these at a short little thing. So, Breathianism, that's what we want to talk. That's the big thing we're going to come today.
And throw on the brakes and a full circle segue back. Okay, yes?
So whenever Chuck's leading this discussion, we don't know where we're going to go. We're going to meander around. We're going to fly from spot to spot. That's how it works.
And I'm going to mention it every time just to give people a little bit of time to catch up to your segues. All right.
I bet there's people out there who think I don't know fast enough. I'm just saying.
I'm sure there are.
I think that we should probably set up some kind of maybe support group for those who've lost loved ones to Breathianism, because it's just a sad fact. I mean, I would be just like, I'd be almost ashamed to tell someone that I had a relative who died due to Breathianism, because how do you explain that to someone? Well, my cousin George, he died yesterday. He hadn't ate in 17 days. Well, that was a long time. I know it went a long time, but the son eventually just gave out. What?
Well, the other side of it is a lot of these people, when you put them in a room and you basically make sure that they are indeed actually following the philosophy that they're preaching, they start losing weight. And they start losing weight at pretty much what biologists would anticipate, a pound or two a day. If they're in there for 4 days, I mean, the smaller they are, of course, the less weight they lose. But if you're in there and if you put somebody in there for 4 days and they lose 4 pounds, that essentially means their body is metabolizing, and it's spending the energy. So if you're not putting more energy in, well, you got issues. But it was just, I didn't even know that it was a thing.
I'm telling you, I'm excited about Breathianism. I'm not going to be a follower of the Breathianistic one. I like food. I'm on a diet. I'm trying to lose weight. We talked about that before.
Yes.
But I like food. So there's no way I could go all the way to Breathianism. I can't even go to vegetarianism. So Breathianism isn't happening. So we're going to have to try to come up. Maybe you could do it, Jason. Do you think you could be a Breathianist?
How long? 6 hours? 8 hours? I think I could pull it off for 8 hours.
8 days, man. Can you give me 8 days? 8 days.
Breathianism for 8 days. Drink nothing but water for 8 days. No.
See, that was a fast and appropriate answer.
I could do it until my stomach started growling and hurting, and then I would eat something to get it to stop. It might be a little something, but I don't see how they convince the. I mean, I occasionally fast just to kind of let my system readjust, because if I've eaten too much, or if I've eaten the wrong thing, or if I'm having acid reflux or whatever, sometimes you just let whatever's in there get out before you put anything else in.
I'm sorry, folks, that he's talking about his digestive issues on camera. I never thought that would happen, but it has.
I'm sure everybody. Hey, I'm not talking about taking a high colonic on the weekends just because.
I don't even want to know what that means. So
no, you don't. It's people who give themselves enemas.
So people, when we talk about this, now that you heard about Breathianism, feel free to tell us about other bizarre dietary or spiritual,
or not even spiritual or dietary, or philosophical viewpoints that have obvious flaws in their interaction with the real world. Because the other side of it is a lot of the practitioners of this, once you start watching them all the time, they cheat all the time. So that it's one of those things: do as I say, not as I do. And we are going to try to say do as we say, because this is as we do. But it's hard. It's hard sometimes.
All right. Well, I think we should call it there. We've talked about some Breathianism. We've hit a few topics. So coming back, we're getting warmed back up. Next week we'll hit something. We'll hit something more solid on next week's show. Well, are we going to do one next week? We might not do one next week. Well, no, we can do one next Monday.
Yeah.
It's the following week. We'll have to do it on Sunday. We go. Don't forget August 21st. Total Eclipse, Jefferson, Missouri. Head there.
The following week we can't do it next Sunday because I'm going to be in Jefferson, Missouri, for watching the 2 minute and 17 Total Eclipse show.
Yeah. I'm excited for August 21st, folks. August 21st. Find out where you need to get. Find out what be outside at the time for the eclipse. It's pretty cool. I'm a fan of eclipses.
You don't have to drive anywhere to see the eclipse. You only will have to drive somewhere if you want to see what they classify as the total eclipse, which is 100% of the sun will be obscured by the moon.
We'll see if anybody in the North America developed superpowers as they did in the television series Heroes.
No, not Heroes.
Yeah, it was Heroes, television series Heroes. That's what they developed their superpowers on the day of an eclipse. And then look, he's got to have to look it up. But those of you who know what I'm talking about, we'll see if anybody ends up being able to teleport, travel through time, freeze people, fly, anything like that. Could happen after the solar eclipse.
And if you do, keep it to yourself and never use it, because as soon as you use it, the rest of us will hunt you down and kill you.
Well, you're going to be the one in a place where the total eclipse happens, so you're going to be the ones with getting a power.
And no one will ever know.
Well, what if you can't control it?
Then I am going to become a hermit. No more of this. No more of this playing at being a hermit. No, I will become a hermit.
Fair enough. All right, folks. Good luck at getting a superpower on August 21st. We'll talk to you after that, probably.
Bye.